Do you want to know what my most anticipated video of the year is every single year? It's this one, my top 10 best movies of the year. So I'm going to share some news, and you've probably already seen the post on my community page. My beautiful wife is pregnant with our first child, and I need to know in the comments, is it a boy or a girl, please? No, seriously, we were very excited to announce it. I'm not good at keeping secrets, so I have been in pain for months. It's been awful. What's up, Flick fans? Welcome back to the channel. The time has come. It's time for my top 10 movies of the year, the hardest list to make, the most difficult one to put together because I'm constantly shifting the order, and oh my god, this year was tough. You're probably asking yourself, Austin, what about honorable mentions? Why'd I do a Mark Wahlberg impression? Hey everybody, hey, honorable mentions. I have a full video on this channel of my 25 through 11 honorable mentions for that list, and then eventually I'll have an honorable mentions for the honorable mentions for the honorable mentions. Let's get into number 10. I'm a character study kind of guy. You give me a great character study, something to sink my teeth into and just be with our lead the entire time, trying to get into the mindset of said person. This time, you have Cate Blanchett, who's playing Lydia Tarr. And Tarr is one of those movies, the first 45 minutes. You get a lot of monologues, a lot of conversations. You're kind of building up this story, this very successful composer and conductor. One of the greatest ever. The first female chief conductor of a major German orchestra. Everything is going her way until it isn't. And she feels so on top of every situation until she doesn't. And where we end up compared to where we began in Tarr is one of the coolest, I don't know if that's the word, most interesting character studies, storylines, character arcs that I've seen all year, and the beauty that comes from what Todd Field is able to do with her. But all of the subtleties happening in the background. Tar is not a movie that's going to feed you a lot of information. You get these subtle moments, these subtle shots, but then you start to understand what's actually going on, but you're still not being fed a lot of information that you think you need to know until you realize you're figuring it out on your own. And a director that can trust a viewer on that level, to me, is one that deserves success. Tar is that kind of movie. It deserves success. I thought the script was great. Nina Haas, Mark Strong, great cast, but it's Cate freaking Blanchett, one of the best performances of the year. I guarantee it. James Cameron, you did it again, you sick bastard. I meant that in a good way. I was telling someone the other day, they said, all you do is defend James Cameron. You were going to defend this movie no matter what. And I'm like, this wasn't on my most anticipated list. This wasn't one that I was overly excited for. I felt like it was just, maybe a few years too late. But I go into this 3D screening, 48 frames per second. I'm like, all right, is it worth 3 hours of my time? Am I going to get sucked into this world? Is Pandora going to hit me like it hit me back in 2009? And I walk out saying, that's better than the first one. And I wasn't the biggest fan of the first one. I thought it was a good movie, a great theatrical experience. I think this one is a great theatrical experience. The story has cliches. It has conventions. We've seen some of these elements before in other blockbusters, but it's the way it's handled, it's the way it's presented, and the fact that Jake Sully now has a family. He has a family to care for, and what they're running from, but also what they are going towards, is beautifully conveyed to us, and how the creatures interact with our characters, how the characters from the previous film play into this movie, even those that aren't with us anymore. Obviously, the performances are good. I thought the cast who played the kids did a really nice job because you're with them throughout most of the movie, but it's a technical masterpiece. It's a masterful work of art in terms of the visuals, in terms of what it does for movie making and cinema. And I'm usually not one that's like, is changing cinema, the way it works. You know me, I like my superhero movies, I like my Marvel stuff. I'm a nerd, I got pop figures in the background. But guess what? James Cameron, you did it, man. You did it. Charlotte Wells, A24, Aftersun. I went into this film with lofty expectations based on what I had heard, and then how I felt about Come On, Come On last year, how I normally feel about A24 when these beautiful stories and emotional tales come out that so many people are able to resonate with, because you can either put yourself in that character's shoes, or it's so beautifully presented to us that you can just see that perspective so clearly and understand exactly what's on the mind of the director. And that's how I felt with Aftersun. But I also felt drastically different than I expected to feel because I just did not anticipate the type of storytelling we were going to get. There are moments in this movie where you're sitting and you're kind of waiting for something to happen, but something is happening. And this is definitely a film that takes its time to get us to that point. You have to establish this relationship between a father and his daughter. And the movie is simple. The premise is simple. You have Sophie, our main character, who's kind of reflecting on this holiday trip that she took with her father 20 years ago. And the memories that we see, what's happening or kind of filling in the gaps of what happened, she's trying to bring all of this back to her memory, and we get to see this vacation of sorts play out. But what her father is going through, and I thought the performances here, both of them, were outstanding. Paul Mescal is so good in this role. It's the subtlety of what he's trying to do. And when you start to figure out what the movie is showing us and what the point of all of this is, that's when the beauty starts to shine. That's when everything combines to make for an experience that you can watch and appreciate, but then reflecting on it makes it so much better than it already was. And I'm so glad I waited to talk about After Sun, because I watched it, I thought about it more the next day. I thought about it for an entire week, how this film was presented to us, and the filmmaking is beautiful. It is a beautiful movie. You're talking editing, everything on a technical level works so well. But the beauty's in the simplicity with After Sun, what it represents, but also what it's trying to say. I will talk about it more in another video, I'm sure, but it definitely deserves its spot in my top 10. Hey, I'm still on the Cha-Cha Real Smooth train, and I'm not jumping off. You guys can join me on that train, and we'll choo-choo our way along the tracks. I don't know where that was going. Cooper Rave, Dakota Johnson, a lovely cast and a lovely story. It's one of those movies you watch and you just have this big smile on your face until you don't. You're shedding a tear, you're getting emotional, and then you're smiling again. And that's how you feel all the way through. You have this main character, he's just out of college, stuck in his home, doesn't know where he's going, 22 years old. My brother's 22, he just got his first job. I'm sure he can relate, but he begins working as this guy who gets parties started at bar mitzvahs, and then he forms a bond with a young mother and her teenage daughter. That mother is played by Dakota Johnson. Vanessa Burke plays her daughter, and I love the dynamic between the three. It's one of the most charming relationships you're going to see all year. And some people are going to watch this, they're going to say, well, it doesn't really go anywhere, and you just have a guy who's trying to figure out where he's going in life, and he's going, yeah, that's the beauty of the film. It's such a simple story, but it's made to be so entertaining. I liked the little relationship that he had with his own family and some of that back and forth. The dialogue here is so well made, and you get to the end of the movie and you get these big emotional moments, but also something that ends in a way that feels natural, and it ends in a way that feels real. And this is just a real movie all the way around. I was hoping it would strike a chord like Coda did, not just because it's on Apple, but because I felt like it could be one that a lot of people would relate to. It's not making a big impact during awards season, but I don't care. I loved it. The Banshees of Inisherin. The Banshees of Inisherin is slowly becoming one of my favorite Martin McDonagh movies, because going back and revisiting it, I loved it the first time. It was in my top 10, but it's kind of moving its way up, because I'm really starting to see within the dialogue what this film is going for, the themes that are present, but also these performances, they're sticking out even more than they did the first time. Barry Keoghan, Brandon Gleeson, Carrie Condon, the supporting cast here, they're mesmerizing. They really are. Not only me loving the accents, and there were times where I'm like, I guess we could have used subtitles in that moment, but giving us phrases and lines that were used during this time period, just the way that they converse and speak to each other is great. But it's this friendship between Colin Farrell's character and Brendan Gleeson, and this bond that all of a sudden is interrupted by one of the friends when he just ends the relationship, and now they're butting heads, and Colin Farrell's character doesn't really know why. So it's up to us to figure out why. It's up to his character to figure out why. But it gets dark, right? It's dark comedy. You have a lot of comedic bits in there. One of the funniest movies I've watched all year. But the path that we go on is unexpected. It's shocking. There are moments when you're in the middle of a conversation, you're like, okay, why are we here? But then you realize it was all there for a reason. And where we end up, I felt like it did a nice job of leaving us hanging just enough to make us even more curious about what happened next. Not everyone's going to love it, but The Banshees of Inisherin, it's one of the best scripts. It may be the best script I've seen all year. Real quick, guys, before we get into number 5, if you have an Amazon Prime account and you're interested in anything involved in my videos, from the equipment I use to the pop figures in the background to my movie theater room, be sure to click on that link and it will take you to all of the products I use in my videos. Also, a quick announcement for Patreon. Patreon will become a full-time thing for this channel starting January of 2023. So if you want to go over there and check out what we're going to have to offer, be sure to do that now. Back to the list. A lot of people are comparing Triangle of Sadness and The Menu, and I think most critics are on the side of Triangle of Sadness. That is a movie that's appealing to a lot of people. I liked it. There were things about it that I loved, things about it that I didn't. I'm a menu kind of guy. I love food. No, this movie is so much more than that, and it came out of nowhere for me. I should have anticipated this from the director, the work that he's done on television, and then this cast, especially Anya Taylor-Joy and Ralph Fiennes, and they deliver in these roles. This couple going to this crazy dinner experience where there's so many courses and everything's presented with a story and a purpose. It feels like a rich person thing, but everyone that's there has their own story. But tonight's dinner, tonight's feast, is so much different than what you anticipate. If you like cooking shows, if you like Gordon Ramsay, which I like, and anything along those lines, you're going to watch The Menu and you're just going to be swept up in the entire thing. And the attention to detail with every course, every meal, and the idea of these foods going together, not going together, the story that is being told, but also the horror of this situation. I'm not going to spoil anything, but there are so many shocking moments in this film. I did think it wrapped up just a bit quicker than I wanted it to, but all in all, one of the best experiences of the year. I can't wait to watch this movie again. Michelle Yeoh, the Daniels, Everything Everywhere All at Once. This movie is a force of nature. I did not expect it to have the impact that it did. Made solid money at the box office, resonated with people. The Letterboxd score is through the roof. It's sticking around during Oscar season. It may just be my prediction for Best Picture, but does it deserve it? Is the movie overhyped? And honestly, I don't think it is. It's one of those films that shocks you so much the first time you watch it, you have to go back and see it again just to make sure you didn't miss anything. It moves at a fast pace, and I mean one of the fastest paces of the year. But if you can keep up with it, and the madness of the multiverse, the jokes that are happening a mile a minute, and all of the craziness that comes with traveling to these different universes, then I think you're going to be up for maybe even the challenge of putting these puzzle pieces together and just enjoying the ride. It's such an enjoyable movie, man. I just love the humor. I love that it has that style of humor that's random, it's dumb, it's silly, it's stupid, but it works so well in context of what this film is trying to do, and that's entertain you. That's give you a multiverse movie, unlike anything you've ever seen before. Use different styles and techniques when it comes to filmmaking, making me feel like a crazy person because I'm sitting here getting emotional as two rocks are talking to each other. You don't even hear the words; it's just sitting there, and you just see the text on screen. Why do I care so much? But I cared. The supporting performances are just as good as well, right? Jamie Lee Curtis and Stephanie and Ki Kwan and everyone's just firing on all cylinders. This is a movie that just meshes so well. Yes, it may be a little overly complicated at points, and you're going to get some moments in there that you're not going to love, but I feel like this is one of those movies that said, you know what, screw it, we're going to be as bonkers and crazy as possible, and I am so glad that they did. Rachel! I have some Batman pop figures. I could bring them out for this, but I'm too lazy. Listen, I love this movie. I thought it worked so well. Obviously, you have the group of people that were going to hate it no matter what, but then you have people that genuinely have issues with it. I have family members who are like, that's just too dark for me, and I don't like a movie that is constructed like that, and that's okay. I completely understand that, but it's not too dark for me, baby. It's my list. Austin Burke, how you doing? Welcome to the channel. Please go watch all my videos and subscribe, even though I'm a Disney shill, a Warner Brothers shill, a Universal shill, a Netflix shill, all the shills. Pay me, give me paid, you give me money. Got something for me to be a shill for? You pay me enough, I'll do it. I was already up for Robert Pattinson as Batman. I've watched more movies than Twilight. I know what he's done, from The Rover to The Lighthouse to, have you seen this little movie called Good Time? That will turn you around on Robert Pattinson. So I'm like, he's going to be great as the Batman. And he was. He was really great. Matt Reeves is a great director. This world is dark, it's brutal compared to other Batman worlds we've seen. It's a more realistic take, obviously, with some outlandish moments, but it's Batman. What are you going to do? You're going to get those moments. I thought Paul Dano's Riddler was really, really good. Unnerving, creepy. You obviously have Penguin, what they did with Colin Farrell, the prosthetic, but the performance was great. The only thing I really needed more of in this movie was Andy Serkis. He was great as Alfred, but I felt like they shortchanged him in the role. This is Robert Pattinson's movie. Zoe Kravitz plays a huge part. That relationship is really good. But the story of where Bruce Wayne is at the beginning, and then he starts to learn it's not all about vengeance. It's about being a light for this city and for these people. And people are wondering, why isn't this the Bruce Wayne that we know? Why is he not this? No, he's growing into that. He has to get there in this film, in this universe. And I believe by the end of the movie, he does. So we're going to see a bit of a different spin on the character in the next film. But even though what we got in the third act wasn't as good as the first two acts, it still wrapped up really nicely, and it made me so excited for the future of this universe. I really loved the movie, guys. I'm not saying it's the best comic book movie the past few years, but I'm also not saying that. I told you we'd talk about it again, All Quiet on the Western Front. #1 on my Netflix list, so obviously it's going to be high on this list. Listen, this is one of those films that you watch and it just leaves you speechless because you're seeing not only the brutality of war, but the gruesomeness and some very tough imagery in this film. If you're not up for that, or if this affects you in a very personal way, I don't know if it's going to hit you in the right way, if it's going to hit you on that level. I'm a sucker for the war movie genre. You know how I feel about 1917. A lot of people are saying this movie is better. A lot are saying worse. And it didn't hit me like 1917 hit me, obviously. But my God, it got close. This is a beautifully made film from a technical level. The visuals, the cinematography, all of that is just gorgeous, man. And the way we go from one character to the next, seeing the perspectives not fully shift throughout the film, but we get to see who each person is as a person. Even though, we're not spending too much time with each one, it's just that mindset at the beginning of the movie. They're so excited to go fight in this war. And then they get there and they realize it's horrifying, it's tragic, and you see every bit of what the director wanted you to see. And I understand it's a remake of the original story. It's kind of a remake of the movie told in a different way. I'm okay with that. I love what they did here. It painted a picture, and it's not going to be a picture that everyone wants to see. And I also heard complaints that they cut back to the government too much. I get it, right? But seeing those perspectives and seeing how they're manipulating these young men, but at the same time, some of these people were just forced into doing what they were doing. I just need to see it again because I keep thinking about it, and the more I think about it, the more I love it. This film affected me so deeply. It's just so beautiful, and I loved it.
Time to talk. No, it's morbid time. Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I was just kidding! Come on! You guys know I was just kidding, right?
Way to the danger zone. Put me back on that jet. Get up on out of here. Top Gun Maverick. It's #1. It's the best movie of the year. It's the most impactful movie that I've seen this year. And I'm not saying it's the most strategically put together film. My God, this movie is cinema. My God, Martin Scorsese is quaking in his leather slippers. No, it's a sequel that did everything it needed to do. I don't have a lot of nostalgia for Top Gun. I thought the movie it's pretty good. Capture the time. It's really cheesy. It's not one that I went back to all that often unless I needed to go back to it for watching Top Gun 2. And then I go and I watch Top Gun 2 and I'm like, where was that in the first movie? I get it, right? Obviously, it's going to look better. It's going to be an experience and all of that. And we'll get to that. But the actual heart in Top Gun Maverick, it's something that people aren't talking about as much as they should. The chemistry between the cast all the way through is great. We know what Miles Teller can do. And he carries what he did in Whiplash over into this film, and you have that heart, and obviously what happened to his father, and that's constantly running through Maverick's mind in this film, and I love how they presented that, but I also love how they utilized the nostalgia without overly relying on it, right? They play on it. It's going to work for a lot of people, music cues and the same sounds, and you hear those things and you feel those things, but it's a new story, and it's a new adventure for Maverick, and that adventure is so impressively put together, but it's also so simple. That's why I love this movie so much. It did everything it needed to do. It didn't have to be Parasite. It didn't have to be The Godfather. We needed a fantastic sequel to Top Gun. I never thought we would get it, but we got it. And maybe it's also just the shock factor, because this is another movie that wasn't my most anticipated movie of the year. This and Avatar. If you would have told me both of these were in my top 10 list at the end of the year, I would have called you crazy. Are you? Glenn Powell was a standout. Jennifer Connelly, Val Kilmer, the role that he played in this movie was just, I mean, come on. You talk about emotion. You're going to get so much emotion from those moments. But then you have all of the technical stuff. Everything happening in the air is so impressive. And people, get a little upset. This has got a cinematography nomination. But no. Record jet. Film it. They didn't just do that, though. They could have taken the simple route, the easy route, the route that we see a lot of these war movies take, to where it looks fine, but they over-rely on CGI. And there's CGI in this movie. There's also a lot of practical in this film. And that's making a big difference when you're sitting in a theater and the seats are rumbling and you can see that and you're like, that happened. That actually happened. And then the idea of Tom Cruise maybe getting a Best Actor nomination at the Oscars, people are they're getting onto that, but at the same time, I don't hate that at all. I mean, the guy learned how to fly a jet for this movie. He already knew how to fly a helicopter and a small plane. He learned how to fly a jet, and he did it over and over and over. I can promise you, I could swear to you that most actors in Hollywood, that myself, would be too afraid to do what he's doing, but he mastered it. That is acting just as much as reading a script, as reading dialogue. I always say that about Keanu Reeves. The guy commits physically. Tom Cruise is risking his life, and I've never been a huge Tom Cruise defender, but lately I'm just defending the guy because this is what he's doing. It's ridiculous. It's crazy, but I love it. We love it as fans. So those are many, many reasons. I'm sorry I rambled why Top Gun Maverick is my number one favorite movie of the year. And again, I am shocked that I feel that way, but I've seen it 7 times. Help. Guys, I want to know, what is your favorite movie of the year? What movie did I leave off my list? My whole list. 25 through 11, 10 through 1. Let me know down below. And please leave your top 10s. That would be awesome. If you're still here, hey, the question of the day, I asked it at the beginning. I'm asking again. Are we having a boy or girl? Please leave your guess down below. Thanks, guys, so much for all of the love and support you've given this channel this year. We have more lists and more things coming, but it really does mean a lot. I can't wait to go into 2023 with you all. I'll see you soon.